I always thought I knew what love was supposed to look like. 4 years with Genevieve had convinced me that patience was the key, that grand gestures were the language, and that my unwavering devotion was the foundation of any lasting relationship. I was wrong about all of it, and I was profoundly wrong about her. It was a crisp October evening in Portland, the kind where the air smells of wet leaves and possibility. I felt that possibility humming in my veins, a nervous energy that had been building for 3 solid months. This was the night. I'd reserved the entire rooftop of the Nines Hotel, the very spot where we'd first met at a friend's birthday party. I'd conspired with the chef to recreate the exact appetizers from that night. I'd hired a string quartet to play her favorite Coldplay song. And this is the part that still makes me wince. I'd spent nearly 2 months' salary on the exact oval-cut diamond ring she'd pointed out during a casual window shopping trip downtown. "This is the one a woman deserves, Caleb," she'd said that day, pressing a perfectly manicured finger against the glass. "If you really love someone, you show it properly." So, I did, or I tried to. I remember checking my pocket every 30 seconds on the elevator ride up, my palms sweating so much I was afraid I'd drop the little velvet box. The quartet was already playing Yellow when we stepped onto the rooftop. The Portland skyline glittered beneath us, a carpet of diamonds mirroring the one in my pocket, and strings of fairy lights twinkled overhead. "Caleb, what is all this?" Genevieve asked, but I could see in her eyes that she knew. Her gaze darted around, taking inventory of the champagne chilling in silver buckets, the musicians, the small curated gathering of our closest friends I'd invited to share the moment. Her smile seemed to flicker, as uncertain as the candles on the tables. I led her to the center of the rooftop where I'd marked a small X with tape earlier that day, the exact spot where we'd been introduced. My best friend, Liam, gave me a thumbs up from beside the bar. My boss, Mr. Allister, was there with his wife. I'd invited colleagues, our friends, even her sister had flown in from Chicago. About 20 people in total, all waiting. "Genevieve," I started, my voice trembling as I dropped to one knee. The speech I'd rehearsed 100 times in the mirror suddenly felt stuck in my throat. "These past 4 years have been the best of my life. You've challenged me to be better, to work harder, to become the man I've always wanted to be." I pulled out the box and opened it. The diamond caught the light from every angle, throwing little rainbows across her black dress. "Will you marry me?" The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but it stretched into an eternity. I watched as something shifted in her eyes, a calculation, a decision being made not with the heart, but with the mind. "I can't," she said, her voice clear and loud enough for everyone to hear. The quartet stopped playing mid-note. Someone gasped. I stayed frozen on one knee, the open ring box still extended toward her. "I'm sorry, Caleb, but I'm just not ready for this." She took a step back. "I thought you knew I wasn't there yet," she continued, her voice taking on an edge I'd only heard a few times before, usually when she was talking about colleagues who'd been promoted ahead of her. This is too much pressure." I remember standing up slowly, my knee aching from the hard concrete. "We can talk about this," I said quietly, trying to salvage not just the moment but my dignity. "Maybe in private." "There's nothing to talk about." She took another step back. "I need space. I need time to think about what I really want." Then she turned and walked to the elevator, leaving me standing there holding a $12,000 ring and the shattered remains of what I thought was our future. Her sister ran after her, throwing an apologetic glance over her shoulder. The party evaporated around me, our friends offering awkward pats on the back and murmurs of sympathy before melting away, not knowing what else to do. I was left alone on that beautifully decorated rooftop, a monument to my own foolishness. The worst part wasn't the public rejection. It was what came after. I drove home alone, the velvet box feeling like a lead weight in my pocket, expecting to find Genevieve there so we could talk things through. But when I arrived at our apartment, half the closet was empty. A note sat on the kitchen counter. "Staying at Brielle's. Will come by for the rest of my things tomorrow." That was it. 4 years together, and that's all I got. I barely slept. I called her repeatedly, but the calls went straight to voicemail. I sent text after text, each one more desperate than the last. Around 3 a.m., fueled by whiskey and despair, I did something I rarely did. I checked Instagram, and there it was. A new post from Genevieve, a selfie of her looking contemplative with a glass of wine, the city lights blurred behind her. The caption read, "Know your worth, queen. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Number, self-love. Number, know your worth. Number, new beginnings." The comment section was a flood of supportive messages. You go, girl, never settle. His loss. So proud of you for choosing yourself. Her best friend, Brielle, had commented, the right man will know your value without you having to tell him. It was like I had been cast as the villain in a story I didn't even know I was a part of. Our relationship, which I thought had been built on love, had been reimagined overnight into something toxic that she had heroically escaped. The next morning, she showed up with Brielle to collect her things. She barely looked at me. Can we please talk about this? I asked, following her into the bedroom where she was packing up her jewelry. There's nothing to talk about, Caleb, she said, not looking up. I'm not ready for marriage. And honestly, the way you ambushed me in front of everyone, that was manipulative. Ambushed? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We've talked about marriage. We've talked about kids. Last Christmas, you pointed out that specific ring. Mentioning something isn't the same as being ready for it, she snapped. And doing it in front of all those people? You put me in an impossible position. Brielle appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. She doesn't owe you an explanation, Caleb. People are allowed to change their minds. After 4 years together, I think I deserve a little more than, I'm not ready. In an Instagram post about knowing your worth, I said, my voice finally betraying the anger simmering beneath the hurt. Genevieve stopped packing and looked at me directly for the first time. Her eyes were cold. Maybe that's part of the problem. You think you're entitled to explanations, to my time, to my future. This is exactly why I need to step back. Entitled? The word hit me like a slap. I thought we were building a life together. I thought we were partners. Well, I need to figure out who I am outside of this relationship, she said, zipping up a suitcase. I've given you 4 years of my 20s. I need to make sure I'm not missing out on something better. Something better. Those words echoed in my head for weeks. They took everything that fit in her car and left. The apartment felt cavernous without her things. The decorative pillows she'd insisted on, the expensive candles that always burned in the bathroom, the framed photos of us that had lined the hallway. She'd even taken the fancy coffee maker, though I'd been the one who paid for it. For the first week, I was a wreck. I called in sick to work for 3 days straight, something I'd never done before. I drank too much whiskey and watched reruns of shows we used to watch together, torturing myself with memories. I checked her social media obsessively. Each new post about freedom and self-discovery, a fresh stab to the gut. Then, on day 8, I woke up and felt something different. Not healing, it was too soon for that. It was anger. Pure, clarifying anger. I looked around at my half-empty apartment and thought, this isn't who I am. I've never been this pathetic. That morning, I deleted all my social media accounts. Not just logged out, permanently deleted. Then I called my boss. Mr. Allister, it's Caleb. I'm coming back tomorrow, and I want in on the Peterson project. The Peterson project was a major infrastructure upgrade that everyone at the firm wanted to work on. It meant longer hours and more responsibility, but also a potential promotion if handled well. Mr. Fady H. Feenan, Allister seemed surprised. I'd never been one to angle for the spotlight. You sure you're up for this right now, son? He asked, his voice laced with concern. I heard about what happened. Tough break. I'm sure, I said, my voice firm. I need this. That same day, I joined a gym near my office and signed up for sessions with a personal trainer. I'd never been out of shape exactly, but I'd become comfortable. Too comfortable. What are your goals? The trainer, a guy named Derek, asked during our first session. I want to not recognize myself in 6 months, I told him. He just nodded, not asking for elaboration. Then let's get to work. The next few months were a blur of work, workouts, and solitude. I poured everything I had into the Peterson project, staying late at the office, coming in early, volunteering for the most challenging design aspects. At the gym, I pushed myself until my muscles screamed, and then I pushed a little more. At home, I replaced the furniture Genevieve had picked out, painted the walls a deep charcoal gray she'd always hated, and started cooking elaborate meals just for myself. I was rebuilding, but I was also hiding. I avoided social gatherings where I might run into mutual friends. I dodged questions about Genevieve and changed the subject whenever anyone brought up relationships. Then came the company holiday party in December, 2 months after the rooftop disaster. I almost didn't go, but Mr. Allister insisted. The whole Peterson team will be there, he said. You've been carrying half that project on your back. You deserve to celebrate a little. So I went, wearing a new suit that fit better thanks to all those hours at the gym, and tried to blend into the background near the bar. That's where Sloane found me. "You're hogging all the good standing space," she said, nudging me with her elbow. "Budge over." Sloane Morgan had joined the firm about a year earlier. She worked in the environmental impact division, and our paths had crossed occasionally on projects. She was smart, direct, and had a laugh that made everyone around her smile. I'd always liked her in a distant, professional kind of way. "There's plenty of room," I said, but I moved over anyway. "I heard you've been killing it on the Peterson project," she said, signaling the bartender. "Alistair won't shut up about your innovative approach to the drainage system." I couldn't help but laugh. Drainage systems, sexy stuff. "Hey, in our world, a good drainage system is practically pornographic," she grinned, "especially one that saves the client $2 million in construction costs." We ended up talking for almost 2 hours, moving from drainage systems to our favorite Portland restaurants to a heated debate about whether Die Hard is truly a Christmas movie. It absolutely is. Not once did she mention Genevieve or ask about my personal life, which was a profound relief. When the party started winding down, she glanced at her watch. "I should head out. Early meeting tomorrow." She drained the last of her drink. "This was fun, though. We should grab coffee sometime. Talk more about your dirty drainage fantasies." "I'd like that," I said, surprised to find that I genuinely meant it. Coffee with Sloane turned into a regular thing. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'd meet at a little place halfway between our apartments before work. She was easy to talk to, no pretense, no games. She laughed at my bad jokes and called me out when I was being too serious. She talked about her work with a genuine passion that was infectious. And she listened, really listened when I talked about mine. One Thursday in February, after we'd been doing this for about 6 weeks, I realized I'd started looking forward to our coffee meetings more than anything else in my week. I also realized I hadn't even thought about Genevieve in days. "You seem different today," Sloane said as we walked back toward the office. "Different how?" "I don't know, lighter? Less like you're carrying the weight of the world on those newly buffed shoulders." She poked my arm teasingly. I laughed, a real, unburdened laugh. "Maybe I am feeling lighter." "Good," she said simply. "It suits you." That weekend, for the first time since the breakup, I accepted an invitation to a friend's birthday dinner. Liam, the same friend who'd given me the thumbs up on the rooftop, was turning 33. As I was getting ready to leave on a whim, I found myself calling Sloane. "Hey," I said when she answered. "Random question. My friend's having a birthday dinner tonight. Any chance you're free and want to join?" There was a pause, and for a moment I regretted asking. Then she said, "What time should I meet you there?" Dinner was surprisingly fun. Sloane fit seamlessly into my group of friends, trading stories and inside jokes like she'd known them for years. At one point, I caught Liam, giving me an approving nod from across the table. After dinner, I walked her to her car. "Thanks for inviting me," she said as we approached her parking spot. "Your friends are great. They liked you too." Liam texted me under the table to tell me I did good. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. We reached her car and she turned to face me. In the glow of the street lamp, I noticed the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled. "So," she said, her directness catching me off guard as always. "Was this a date?" Would that be okay if it was?" "More than okay." She stepped closer. "I've kind of been waiting for you to figure that out." And then she kissed me, right there on the street. It wasn't earth-shattering or dramatic, not like in the movies. It was just warm and real and right. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "See you Tuesday for coffee?" she asked. "Definitely," I said, feeling like something important had just shifted into place. After that night, Sloane and I started dating officially. We took things slowly at first. Both of us had emerged from long-term relationships in the past year and were cautious about diving in too deep, too quickly. But there was an ease between us that I'd never experienced before. We could talk for hours or sit in comfortable silence. We disagreed sometimes, but we talked it out instead of letting it fester. By April, we were spending most nights at each other's places. By June, I realized I was in love with her in a way that made what I'd felt for Genevieve seem like a pale, flimsy imitation. "Let's go hiking this weekend," Sloane suggested one evening. "There's a trail in the Columbia River Gorge I've been wanting to try." That Saturday, we drove east with the windows down and music playing. The hike was challenging, but the views from the summit were breathtaking. We found a rocky outcrop with a panoramic view of the gorge. "This might be my favorite place on earth," Sloane said, pulling water bottles from her backpack. I sat beside her, taking in the vista and the woman next to me. Her cheeks were flushed from the climb, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked completely at home in the wilderness. In that moment, I knew with absolute clarity that I wanted to spend my life with her. "What?" she asked, catching me staring. "Nothing," I said. "Just thinking about how lucky I am." She leaned over and kissed me. We ate our lunch, and as we were preparing to head back down, Sloane suddenly stood up. "Wait," she said. "I have something for you. Close your eyes." I raised an eyebrow, but did as she asked. I heard her rummaging in her backpack, then her footsteps as she moved in front of me. "Okay, open them." I opened my eyes to find Sloane kneeling on one knee, holding a small wooden box. "What are you?" "Caleb Anderson," she said, cutting me off with a smile. "I know we haven't been together that long, and maybe this is crazy, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life." She opened the box to reveal a simple, handsome silver band. "I love the way you think, the way you care about details most people overlook, the way you make me coffee in the morning without asking. I love how you're rebuilding yourself after being knocked down. And I want to be by your side while you do it, for the rest of it." She took a deep breath. "Will you marry me?" I stared at her, completely stunned. Of all the scenarios I'd imagined for this hike, this wasn't even on the list. "You're proposing to me?" I finally managed to say. "Is that a problem?" she asked, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face for the first time. "No, God, no." I pulled her to her feet and into my arms. "It's perfect. You're perfect. Yes, of course I'll marry you." She slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. And then we were kissing, laughing, crying a little bit all at once. That evening, back at a bed and breakfast in Hood River, we posted a simple announcement on Instagram, a photo of us at the summit, my hand with the new ring visible, and the caption, "She asked, I said yes. Adventure begins." We turned our phones off after that and spent the evening celebrating privately. It wasn't until the next morning, over coffee in the Bee's garden, that we turned them back on and saw the explosion of congratulatory messages and one missed call from Genevieve. My stomach dropped when I saw her name. I hadn't heard a single word from her in 8 months. I showed the notification to Sloane. "Are you going to call her back?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me is curious, but another part of me just doesn't care anymore." Sloane squeezed my hand. "It's up to you. But whatever you decide, I'm here." I decided not to call her back. We drove back to Portland, and I pushed the missed call from my mind until my phone rang at 11:30 that night. I was already in bed, Sloane asleep beside me. I grabbed the phone quickly to silence it and saw Genevieve's name on the screen again. I declined the call. A minute later, a text lit up the screen. "We need to talk. It's important." I stared at the message, a knot forming in my stomach. After a moment's hesitation, I typed back, "I'm engaged now. Whatever it is, I'm sure we don't need to discuss it." The reply was immediate. "Engaged? After only 6 months? Are you serious right now?" A surge of anger prompted my response. "Deadly serious and very happy. Please don't contact me again." I put the phone down, but it lit up once more. "I'm coming over." I got out of bed carefully, trying not to wake Sloane, and went into the living room to call her. "You're not coming over," I said as soon as she answered. "How do you even know where I live?" "Brielle's boyfriend works with someone at your firm," she said, her voice tight. "Caleb, you can't be serious about marrying this woman. You barely know her." "I know everything I need to know," I said. "And frankly, it's none of your business." "None of my business?" She laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "We were together for 4 years. You wanted to marry me 8 months ago. And you said no, very publicly, if you recall." "And I said I wasn't ready," she snapped. "Not that I never wanted to marry you. I thought you'd wait." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. Wait for what exactly? There was a pause. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, almost pleading. "For me, to figure things out. To be sure you were the one." I leaned against the wall, a strange mix of vindication and disgust washing over me. "So, you wanted me to just sit around while you, what, played the field? Saw if there was someone better out there?" "That's not," she started, but I cut her off. "Actually, I don't want to know. It doesn't matter anymore. I've moved on, Genevieve. You should too." "This is because I hurt your ego," she said, her voice turning cold again. "You're rushing into marriage with the first woman who looked at you after me just to prove something. End of fact. Think whatever you want," I said, my patience gone. Just leave me alone. I ended the call and blocked her number. A hand touched my shoulder, and I turned to find Sloane standing there, wrapped in one of my t-shirts. Genevieve? She asked simply. I nodded. She's not happy about our engagement. I told her everything, how Genevieve had expected me to wait for her like some sort of backup plan. Sloane took my hand, her thumb tracing over the engagement ring on my finger. Some people see relationships as transactions, she said softly. What they can get versus what they have to give. I've never understood that. Me neither, I said. Or at least, I didn't think I did. But maybe with her, I was doing the same thing, giving and giving, hoping that eventually she'd think I was worthy. You've never had to prove your worth to me, Caleb, Sloane said quietly. I saw it the first time we really talked. And the next morning, I had an email from Betrayal, Genevieve's best friend. The subject line was simply, "You should know." I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Caleb, Genevieve is devastated. She made a mistake, and she knows it. She was going to tell you last night that she wants you back. She's ready now for everything you wanted. Think carefully about what you're doing. You loved her for 4 years. Can you really say you love this new woman more after just 6 months? I showed the email to Sloane. She read it, her expression unreadable. Are you going to respond? No, I said, closing my laptop. There's nothing to say. I thought that would be the end of it. The following weekend, we were having dinner at a restaurant downtown when I spotted Genevieve at the bar. She was alone, nursing a drink, and it was clearly not a coincidence. Don't look now, I murmured to Sloane, but my ex is at the bar. Sloane, of course, immediately looked. The blonde in the green dress? She keeps glancing over here. Want to leave? I considered it, then shook my head. Number, we're having a nice dinner. I'm not going to let her ruin it. But she wouldn't be ignored. A few minutes later, she got up and headed directly for our table. Caleb, she said, her voice slightly slurred. What a coincidence. Genevieve, I replied flatly. This is my fiancée, Sloane. Sloane, this is Genevieve. Sloane extended her hand politely. Nice to meet you. Genevieve ignored the offered hand. So, you're the rebound. I prefer to think of myself as the upgrade, Sloane replied smoothly, withdrawing her hand without missing a beat. Genevieve's face flushed with anger. You have no idea what you're getting into. He's damaged goods. He's got serious commitment issues. I nearly choked on my water. I proposed to you, remember? You're the one who said no. Oh, I said not yet, Genevieve hissed. There's a difference. Not to the 20 people watching me on one knee, I shot back. Not to me, waiting for you to come home that night, only to find half your things gone. A few diners at nearby tables were starting to stare. I made a mistake, she said, her voice breaking. I was scared. Betrayal convinced me I needed to see what else was out there before settling down. I thought you'd wait for me. Oh, you expected me to just pause my life while you dated other men? I asked, incredulous. I wasn't dating, she protested. I was exploring my options. Sloane made a small noise beside me, something between a laugh and a scoff. Genevieve turned on her. What's so funny? Nothing, Sloane said, her voice calm but firm. Just the idea that this man, this kind, brilliant, stupidly handsome man, should be kept on hold while you explored your options. As if he's some kind of backup plan and not someone's first choice. A server approached our table cautiously. Is everything all right here? Everything's fine, I said. My friend was just leaving. Genevieve straightened, her dignity reasserting itself. This isn't over, Caleb. She turned and walked out. The next day at work, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. Check your email. You deserve to know the truth. Chris, Betrayal's ex. I opened my email with a sense of dread and found a message from him with several attachments. Caleb, the email read, Betrayal and I broke up last week. I found out she's been helping Genevieve run this system on guys for years. You were part of it. This is messed up and you should know. I've attached screenshots of their messages about you and some spreadsheet they kept. Sorry, man. With a growing sense of nausea, I opened the attachments. The first was a screenshot of messages between Betrayal and Genevieve from around the time of my proposal. Genevieve, he proposed, just like we knew he would. Betrayal, OMG, what did you say? Genevieve, no, of course, just like we planned. You should have seen his face, though. Almost felt bad. Betrayal, stay strong. Remember the plan. 1 year to find Mr. Right. Caleb will still be there if you don't. Genevieve. He better be. I've invested too much time to lose him completely. Brielle. That's why we came up with the not ready line instead of a hard no. Keeps the door open. Genevieve. Exactly. And now I can have my fun while keeping him on the hook. I felt physically ill, but the spreadsheet was the worst. Titled Genevieve's Options. It was a list of men, myself included, with ratings for income, appearance, future potential, and sexual performance. Notes in the margins detailed pros and cons. Next to my name, it read, reliable, good income, decent in bed, but too agreeable, no challenge. Backup option if nothing better materializes. I forwarded everything to Sloane with a brief message. Now we know what she meant by exploring options. Her reply came quickly. What a manipulative, calculating witch. Are you okay? Before I could reply, another email arrived from Chris. There's more. Brielle is telling people at industry events that you're emotionally unstable and your engagement is a desperate rebound. Genevieve is saying Sloane pursued you while you were still together. They're trying to control the narrative. That afternoon, Eliza tagged me in an Instagram post. I hadn't used the app in months, but the notification came through to my email. I clicked the link. It was a throwback photo of us on vacation, all smiles, with a long, saccharine caption. Some relationships shape you forever. I made a mistake walking away from this man, and I've regretted it every day since. Sometimes you don't recognize what you have until it's gone. I'm sorry, Caleb Anderson. I should have said yes. Number the one hate tech got away, number second chances. The post was flooded with sympathetic comments from our mutual acquaintances, criticizing me for moving on so quickly. She was playing the victim, and it was working. I met Sloane for lunch, seething. I'm tired of letting her control the story, I said, showing her the post. I'm tired of being the reasonable one while she manipulates everyone around us. Sloane set my phone down and took my hands across the table. So, what do we do? I looked at her, at this incredible woman who had chosen me from the beginning, not as an option, but as a partner. I think it's time for the truth to come out, I said. All of it. That evening, I logged into my old, dormant Instagram account. I made my first post in 8 months. It was simple. A screenshot of the spreadsheet, with my name and rating clearly visible. The caption read, when someone treats you as an option, don't make yourself their backup plan. The truth about why I moved on. I followed it with a second post. The screenshots of Genevieve and Brielle's messages about their plan for me. Then I turned off notifications, set my phone aside, and took Sloane out for ice cream. The next morning, my posts had been shared hundreds of times. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months were messaging me, horrified. Genevieve's Instagram had suddenly gone private. Liam messaged me. Chris came to poker night and showed us everything. We've all been played. We're behind you 100%. Also, Sloane seems awesome. Don't screw this up. The fallout was swift. Genevieve tried to call, Brielle tried to call, both leaving angry, then pleading voicemails. I ignored them. I was done. A few days later, her sister called me to apologize, telling me Genevieve had known about the proposal for 2 weeks and had planned her rejection in advance. The final piece of the cruel puzzle clicked into place. She had not only rejected me, she had orchestrated my public humiliation. That night, after her sister called worried she might do something stupid, I asked Liam and his girlfriend, a psychiatric nurse, to check on her. They found her drunk and full of self-pity, but safe. After that call, I let her go completely. This was the last thing I would ever do for her. The morning of our wedding, I stood at the front of a small aisle in a sun-drenched vineyard, with Liam beside me as my best man. The string trio began to play, and everyone turned as Sloane appeared at the end of the aisle. She wore a simple white dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders, a small bouquet of wildflowers in her hands. As our eyes met, I felt all the certainty in the world settle into my chest. This was real. When it came time for our vows, I took both her hands in mine. Sloane, I said, my voice thick with emotion. When we met, I was rebuilding myself from the ground up. I thought love was something you had to earn, something you proved yourself worthy of. You showed me that real love isn't about proving anything. It's about being seen clearly and accepted completely. You chose me from the beginning, not as a project or a backup plan, but as your partner. Today I choose you, not just as my wife, but as my best friend, my confidant, my favorite person. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of our lives. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she spoke her vows. Caleb, you came into my life when I least expected it. And from our first real conversation, I knew you were special. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Who you are is exactly who I want to spend my life with. I promise to always see you clearly, to stand by your side, and to choose you every day as my partner in all things. The officiant pronounced us husband and wife, and as we kissed, our friends and family erupted in applause. 6 months after our wedding, I was sorting through old files on my laptop when I came across a folder labeled Proposal Plans. Inside were the receipts for the ring, the notes for my speech, the contacts for the quartet. For a second, a shadow of the old hurt passed over me. I started to drag the folder to the trash, then stopped. It was part of the path that had led me here. Instead of erasing it, I closed the laptop and went to find my wife. That evening, as we walked our newly adopted golden retriever along the waterfront, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, I realized something important. Genevieve's rejection hadn't broken me. It had freed me. Her cruel, calculated no had eventually led to Sloane's brave, honest yes. And that had made all the difference. Some queens don't settle for less than they deserve. And sometimes what they deserve is to be left with exactly what they've given to others, nothing at all.